Warriors.
Warriors all day, baby.
You can hear me well, Entyce?
Yes, loud and clear.
Awesome. Right. Hey, everyone that's just joined. We're just going to have a quick chat, quick interview with the one and only Entyce the Lyrical Vegan. And then afterwards, we'll do a little Q&A. So pay attention to the comment box with the question mark in. If you've got any questions for Entyce and I, drop them in there. We'll answer them at the end of the interview, guys. So,
Yeah.
hey, Entyce, how's it going, man? Please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah. So my name is Entyce. I became vegan 7 years ago. My partner and I of 11 years. My best friend, love her to death. We went vegan together, so that kind of made everything a lot easier.
Awesome.
Yeah, I've been doing activism for the last 5 years. I'm also a rap artist. I do animal rights music. I've been writing music since I was like 13. I've been rapping since I was 13. Much different style of rapping, of course, back in the day, but going vegan transitioned into doing animal liberation music to spread awareness to the world for what non-human animals go through at the hands of humans to get them to their liberation. So yeah, I've been doing activism for about 5 years. A lot of my activism started online, just doing in comments, just spreading awareness like that with people, posting things on Facebook. Yeah, happy to be here with you today.
Awesome. Yeah, it's so good to speak to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you do a lot of like content creation. You've done some with us as well. You do like street outreach.
Yeah.
You do those like interruption things. You've got the music. Like,
Yeah.
tell us, like, why do you do all of that? Like, why do you do all that stuff?
Yeah, it's important because when we first went vegan, like going vegan, I always say it saves some animals, but when you start speaking for them, it liberates everybody. So about, like I said, 5 years ago, started activism, started doing online stuff. I wanted to do more. So I was watching Anonymous for the Voiceless very exclusively at the time. I don't know how I missed the memo because I thought that organization was just like an overseas organization. But then I was on their website one day and it said, join your local chapter. So I looked up on their map and I saw all these chapters in the States. So I was like, let's go. So looked up the chapter in my area. This was 2021. So at the time, COVID was still happening. So the chapter wasn't active. So I reactivated it, started doing a lot of street activism with AV. Did some AV events in Toronto, in New York City, just doing a whole lot of street activism with them. And 2021 was actually when I started doing my animal rights music at that time. But I still wanted more. So I want to say 2021 or 2022, I attended my first animal liberation march. That was probably the most inspiring, uplifting. I've never had an adrenaline rush before. I had one that day, being around so many like dynamic activists, like-minded activists. And that's when I connected with my activist sister, Rachel. Shout out to her. She does a lot of demos and a lot of events and marches in New York City. So I connected with her, and that's when I started doing more boots on the ground, demonstrations, bullhorns, signs, and getting really out there on the streets is when I connected with her. I did my first live performance at a couple events that she did. So now, and not only do I do that, I also have a set pattern, a set kind of posts and things that I make every single day. They're called my veganism weekly reminders, or just weekly reminders based off of the day that I'm doing them. So Mondays is I speak for sanctuaries, Tuesdays is for sea life, Wednesdays is for wildlife, Thursday is to kind of highlight speciesism, what that means. Fridays is to kind of define what veganism means, because I think it's very hazy in this world. So I think having to redefine veganism is something that I do a lot with my activism. Saturdays, I give support to other activists. This is the hardest road, the hardest mission that I've ever been a part of. So Saturdays, I do a post to give activists kind of an uplift and inspire them to keep going. And Sundays, I grew up in a very religious household. So Sundays, it's called Sunday Religious Hypocrisy Reminder. A lot of my past family and friends, they still talk about God and they're still in church, but they're exploiting animals at the same time. So I kind of highlight that hypocrisy. And then I also work full time. So yeah, a lot. And there's no team. It's just me. My girlfriend, she works 2 jobs and she does her own style of activism. So yeah, hard at work for these babies every single day, every day.
So you're not too busy, Entyce, is what you're saying.
Yeah, not too busy. Not too busy.
Of all the stuff that you do, like, is there like any form of activism that's like your favorite or you think's the most effective? Or yeah, talk about that a little bit. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say just for the simple fact that I've been writing music my whole life. My music is my number one, my top form of activism, I feel. Music is just, regardless if it's activism or regardless, music is powerful and music can reach the hearts and minds of people. Like if you're just watching a movie and it's like a really, really intense part, and then that music kind of follows behind it, it just brings it all home. So I feel like doing this music and also with that message, bringing that awareness, teaching people, educating people what's happening to animals. And when I speak, when it comes to my message and my music, I don't just focus on just one aspect. I always speak about and bring awareness to all forms of animal exploitation. So I have music for the sea life. I have a song for individuals who are enslaved in zoos and aquariums. I have a song that I just highlight parts of like testing and everything. I just make that a whole message full of just that education. So I feel like the music part of it is probably my favorite. I mean, It's like someone also asked me that, like, but it's like when I do music, even though I love writing, when I'm writing those words and then when I'm making those videos, it's like it's heartbreaking at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a bittersweet thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah. That's amazing. I just want to say to the viewers that have just joined as well, at the end of the interview, we're gonna, if there's any questions, drop them in the comment box with the question mark, and we'll get to some people's questions at the end. Yeah, I think it's a really good time to ask you actually, and I don't know this yet, so I'm super interested. Can't wait to hear. But like, how did you go vegan and why? And then you could intertwine that into your like, from when you went from there to then being an activist as well, if you like.
Yeah, sure. So it's very interesting how it all went down. It's kind of like veganism found us. So 7 years ago, so it was at 2017, I had a very eye-opening doctor's appointment. I used to be a lot bigger than I am now. So you know how like when you know something is bad, but then when you hit reality, like you know it's really that bad. So like, you know, when you go to the doctors, the first thing they want to do is weigh you. No matter what your doctor's appointment is, if you're going for an eye exam, you got to get on the scale. I'm like, damn it, everything results in this damn scale. So got on the scale and it just wasn't looking good. So after that doctor's appointment, I want to say like maybe a week or so, Carrie and I, we were watching, we were just bored and we were just like watching Netflix. I think I was the one who decided to watch that day, and we watched What the Health. What the Health kind of, it wasn't, and like I said, it wasn't like we were looking at these documentaries to go vegan or anything about animals. It was literally just to kind of like change how we ate. And I remember after watching that documentary, I was like, okay, so every single thing that they told us about the food system was a lie. And I think there was one part where there was a little bit of an animal connection. There was a pig on a conveyor belt and they cut the pig's leg and pus came out their leg. And I kind of remember thinking like, it's so crazy, the program mind, because I was kind of feeling bad for the pig, but I was really feeling bad for my food choices and how unhealthy I was. So, but we didn't stop there. We continued to educate ourselves on. And I want to say maybe the day after or that week after, we watched Food Inc. and Vegucated. Both of those documentaries are no longer on Netflix. Surprise, surprise. So Food Inc. had and what's crazy at this time, I don't think there was Dominion. There was no Earthlings. Like I said, there was no thoughts of animals and veganism. It was literally just to to change like the way we ate. But Food Inc., there was an image of a cow or a segment of a cow. They were hoisting the cow up by their legs. I don't know if this was at the slaughterhouse. I don't know if this was the oppression plot where they were being enslaved, but we shut that off. We were just like, we don't want to see that. We don't want to know what's going to happen to the cow. And we just shut that off. And I don't know how, but we continued to watch the documentaries we were watching that day. So we watched Vegucated, and Vegucated, it was saying it was like 6 or 7 people. They were following their, I guess, vegan story, but it was just about food. They were all transitioning and changing how they ate. And I think that's why I gravitated to that. But at the end of the documentary, they took them into an abandoned slaughterhouse. This is where it all changed. This is where it got dark for me, because then they started telling stories about what was happening to the animals in the slaughterhouse, and then the camera cut to an actual slaughterhouse image, and the guy was standing over a pig, and he bolt gunned the pig in the head, and the pig dropped to the floor and started convulsing and shaking. Once again, we cut it off. That day, we stopped eating flesh. All flesh, we stopped it. There was no hesitation. There was no debate. There was no conversation after that. We stopped eating flesh that very same day. But there was still no talk to veganism, and I'll tell you why. Because after those documentaries, I want to say a couple of days again after that, I said to Carrie, I was like, yeah, we can change how we eat, but I'm not going to worry about our products. I'm not going to go crazy with it. Those were my words verbatim. Verbatim, those were my words. Yeah. So that's how I know there was no veganism, there was no animal rights, none of that. Because I said that. And I can't even believe that I had that mind frame, even after watching what I watched. So, but again, we continue to educate ourselves. That's what I think people do. They start and they stop at the same time. Yeah, I was big. Yeah, I wanted to lose weight. Yeah, I wanted to change how I ate. But we didn't stop that. We continue to educate ourselves. So we watched Dairy is Scary. That damn 5.5-minute video changed our entire life. We went vegan after watching that. Yeah. That was when we said we were vegan, because we were like, if they're doing this to animals for their breast milk, what else are they doing to them? So we started to research every single label, every single ingredient. We started to look into our products, and that whole, I'm not going to go crazy with it. All that shit went right out the window. We started looking at our products. And what's crazy is that we still didn't know everything. Like, even though we were researching, like, for instance, for all of our products, soaps and stuff, we thought cruelty-free meant good to go. But cruelty-free means just it's not tested on animals. You need to look for that vegan and cruelty-free label. We didn't know that. So I was buying items with animal ingredients in it for like the first 2 years, even though we were researching and learning. But I don't know, maybe we skipped that memo about that. So we found out what the difference was between cruelty-free and vegan, replaced all of our products yet again, started flipping over the labels for my hats and my sneakers. I'm a big hat and sneaker fanatic. And then I started flipping that label. Yeah, I was walking around with exploitation. So I got rid of all that, replaced all our wardrobe. Carrie replaced all her wardrobes, all her products. And what really transitioned us into becoming activists is when we became members at Farm Sanctuary in Watkins Glen, which is not that far from us. So awesome. Joining sanctuaries and becoming members, seeing those babies in their eyes, looking at them in their eyes, hearing their rescue stories, that is what transitioned us into being activists. Because I was just like, yeah, I just can't be vegan. I have to start speaking for them, and I have to be a voice for them. And what was a real pivot point for me at our first visit at the sanctuary was we were at the cow pasture, and I was standing, it was like 6 or 7 of us. And there was a cow, I don't know if he, I'm not sure if it was a bull or cow, but we were kind of like, not really head on, but they were at the other far end of the barn, and I was right here, and we locked eyes. And I saw their eyes, and their eyes were like, they had the fear of like God in their eyes staring at me. They didn't blink, they didn't move, they didn't sway. They was literally just locked on me. And like I said, there was other people standing there. I don't know why they were just looking at me. Did I look like someone they knew back in the past? Did I smell like someone that they knew back in the past? I don't know. But they looked at me like I was a monster. And I technically was. And that monster in their eyes was me. Because I was the reason why, like, my past lifestyle put a lot of those animals in sanctuary. And when I saw that look of fear in their eyes, That is what really changed me into being an activist. It's powerful. Looking animals into their eyes is powerful.
Yeah.
That's another thing I tell people to do, recommend, go visit a sanctuary, start looking animals in their eyes, start hearing their stories. It will change you, because it changed me 100%.
Yeah, because like the animal exploitation industries do their best to like make you forget that everything that they produce, like they want to make you forget that it comes from these individuals, and so people just, it's easy for people to forget the individuals behind all of these products. And yeah, that was amazing to hear. So like, you think like potentially you could have been like fast tracked from like that point where you changed your diet to like being an ethical vegan, but there was just like a lack of understanding at the start.
Definitely.
This like segues us perfectly into the last question I have for you for this interview, because I know that you're so passionate about this. And I just want to say to everyone as well that's watching, please drop some questions in the comment box with the question mark, because we're going to do a little Q&A at the end if anyone's got questions for Entyce and I. But yeah, so it's like, it was interesting to hear that there was this like focus on diet for you at the start, because I see you like talking so much about how veganism's not a diet.
Right.
And so I wanted to know, what are your thoughts on like where the vegan movement's at right now?
Yeah.
Like, what do you think we're not doing perfectly? What could we be doing better? Because you talk about it a lot, and yeah, I'd love our viewers to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, so actually, interesting you asked that, because like a couple of days ago, I posted a question. What do people think is the reason why veganism has transitioned to being so self-serving? A lot of great responses came from my Facebook, from my Instagram. True animal liberationists, they know, they get it. And it was just like so many great comments came after that. And the three things that people said, which is what I also agree with, starting off, I think starting off, social media and the influencers of veganism has totally taken this movement. They scooped it and they kind of ran with it. And, you know, I am someone who, I struggled with weight. I struggled with my appearance. I get the gravitation towards wanting to look good, wanting to feel good and all that. But what lacks from these influencers is the educational part of it. They do not show animals. They do not talk about animals. They're cooking and they're flexing and they're in the mirror and they're in the gym, and they have the word vegan just plastered all over their sites, their websites, their web pages, and they are not giving anyone any education about what's actually happening to non-human animals. Because yeah, you may have people who now they're not eating, they're animal-free, plant-based now sometimes, because we all know they don't do it all the time. But at the same time, they're still using palm olive. They're still using Gain. They're still using Tide. They're still wearing animals. They're still buying animals. They're still going to SeaWorld. They're still going to the circus, still going to the zoo, still buying animals from Craigslist, not adopting animals. They're not being given that education. And when you have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people doing this, you now have created this whole, I don't even call it a movement anymore. It's just a whole cluster of just people thinking that veganism is one way. And then when you have actual true animal liberationists who actually come on these pages to try to educate people, to try to inform them of what veganism actually means, they get mad, they argue, they combat, they say that we're ego driven, we're mean, that we're nasty. We're just saying the things that your influencer should be saying. So now you just have this whole massive confusion of what veganism actually means. And then you have social media gets involved, money gets involved, these organizations that they all create this whole pot of just massive confusion. The animals lose, they're not being spoke about. And not to say like you need to show like graphic footage all the time. It's not like you need to show animals getting their heads cut off. But can you, if you have your egg-free baking post or video you're making, can you mention the hens? Can you talk about male chicks? Just talk about them. Flash an image of a hen in sanctuary, someone who's happy and not having their head cut off. Just show them in some way. Get people connecting to the animals, because these influencers are not doing that. So I think to start off, that's where it's really getting bad with that. And then you have the whole welfareism stuff going on. People who are talking about welfare. You have Peter Singer, who just posted about McDonald's and them out for going 100% cage free for their secretions. Like that's something. We are abolitionists, okay? We're not welfareists. So when you create this whole welfareist approach, all the welfareist conversations, it gives people that cushion, like, oh, I can still buy animals, I can still exploit them, and it's not that bad. So let me reach for the cage-free secretions, and they're gonna keep doing that. Pigs no longer in gestation crates. People pushing for that, pushing for that. Okay, she's still being forcibly impregnated. She's still having her babies taken from her. She's still gonna go into the slaughterhouse, and so are her babies. What are we doing? What are we doing? And you got to think about like other forms of injustice back in the past. When it came to slavery, they weren't trying to make the whips nicer. They weren't trying to make the slavery prettier. It was, they were enslaved. The solution was liberation. So that's what we should be talking about. We're not trying to make the cages nicer, the oppression look nicer. We are trying to liberate these babies and get them to their full liberation. So now you have the influencers, you have the welfareist approach, and then it brings it all home with the whole intersectionalism talks. Now, look, I wasn't born yesterday. I know the lines and the intersecting lines of what happens to animals and what happens to the food system and the health and all that. But that is a food-based discussion. You do not see them as property. You do not see them as resources. You do not see them as commodities. You do not view them as here for you. That's what veganism means. And people seem to forget when you're talking about bringing human rights into animal rights, what's happening to non-human animals, it's not happening because it's just willy-nilly happening. What's happening to non-human animals is because of the choice impacts of human beings. And human beings need to be held accountable to those choices and to those actions. How are you holding them accountable and holding their hand, grouping their rights with their rights? Now, look, if you want to fight for another social justice cause, there's nothing wrong with that. You can fight for whoever you want. Please do. There's people who are oppressed, people who are being killed, and humans need voices too. But you do that in that movement. While we are here talking about non-human animals, this is about non-human animals and their rights only. And in no other social justice movement are the people who victimize and the victims walking hand in hand and side by side together. That does not happen. In the feminist movement, there's not the feminists and the women who don't have rights, or the women who are being beaten and battered grouped with the men who rape and batter them, and we're all going to walk off into the sunset with each other. That's not how social justice goes. That's not how rights goes. So when you bring in all these other things, you have the BLM coming into the movement, you have trans rights, you have the victims of war, you have political views. You know what that does? It takes the animals where they once were up here, start stacking all these things on top of them, and then you just have them way down here. Not even getting a voice in their own movement, not even being discussed in their own movement, and they lose in their own movement. So compile all that stuff together. That's where our movement is now. Well, their movement, and it isn't one. It isn't one, and it's sad. And I pray to God, and I hope to God, it all changes.
Yeah, I hear you, Entyce, and I just want to say, to like bring it back to the first point. And reason why, like, I think it's the most popular issue, and the one I agree with you on most passionately, I think. And so it would be amazing if we could like have a distinction between plant-based and vegan.
Right.
And there is confusion about what vegan means, and
Right.
I'm taking this from the perspective of what I believe that most non-vegans think as well. So I think like most non-vegans think that veganism is just a plant-based diet.
Right.
At least on first thought.
Right.
And it would be great to get that distinction. And I related to you with like, so back to when you were talking about how you came in from that like health perspective, and like you lacked that understanding.
Right.
And so like I came in not from a health perspective, not from an ethical perspective either, but like I was super interested. I had like climate anxiety like the next guy, and I came in from like this sustainability angle, and I was interested in all that, watched all the David Attenborough stuff. Like, yeah, it was Seaspiracy that connected me, yeah, a little bit closer to ethical veganism. And then it brings me to that point where you said like you don't even have to show slaughterhouse footage. And right. I'm gonna then now I'm going to second that again, because that's not what made me vegan. So
right.
I came in from this angle, and then it was being educated by Earth Ned's strong ability to portray the ethical argument.
Right.
All I needed was to realize the ethical arguments, and then I went vegan, and I was only really seeing slaughterhouse footage constantly after I introduced myself to the movement.
Right.
And so I totally second what you say there.
And then go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say to everyone that's still here, please drop some questions for us for after the interview. Me and Entyce are going to look through that and answer a couple questions if there's any to answer. But yeah, go ahead, Entyce.
I just feel like, not only like going back to what we were saying with the influencers and this whole intersectionalism and all that stuff, like, and yes, I understand animals are exploited the most when it comes to this quote unquote food system. But once you start opening yourself up to all ways humans exploit animals, when you start looking at those testing labs, what those babies are going through in there, when you start looking at fur farms, when you start looking at what animals are going through for fashion, when you start looking at what those babies are enduring, being enslaved and being exploited in zoos and aquariums and bullfighting and greyhound racing and horse racing, when you start looking at all those in one segment, first of all, people who want to bring human rights into this, you'll be less apt to do this for humans, because like I said, humans are the oppressors to animals. You'll be less apt doing that, and you will focus more on non-human animals. And then for the whole people with the influencers, with the food and all that, and like we were saying, when you're not giving people the education about anything, like, people, they're not making any connections with the whole ethical side of it. And it's just like, yes, animals are exploited for food the most, but that's not where it stops, man. Humans are doing real nasty, evil, disgusting, atrocious, repulsive things when it comes to non-human animals, and people are supporting that. Humans are the reason why it's happening. Humans are the reason why it's going down, and they need to be held accountable to that. And I think people, when they hear the word accountable, I don't know if they think that means that we now take this holier than thou stance, or we take this we're better than everyone stance. Like, in the court of law, when people are being held to account to something that they did, are they walking? Are the judges, the lawyers, the juries, are people looking at them like they're holier than thou? No, you're just being held accountable to something evil and cruel and violent and exploitative and oppressive that you're doing, and people should be held accountable to that, and people don't know what's going on. So having someone tell you the truth, having someone spread awareness to you, and you don't have to point your finger at you disgusting animal abuser. I used to do that, though. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it and lie. At the start, I was very angry, and that's how I used to speak. Very first sentence. I know that's probably not the best way to approach it. Some people do, whatever, not knocking your style, but I do now start with the education and giving people the awareness and showing them. And then once the education is there and you start and you're still mocking them, yeah, that animal abuser title will get told to you. But we're going to start off with the educational side of it first. And because people, they like I said, they don't know, and they need to know. So, and it's up to us to, if it's not us, who else is going to say this message? Who else?
Yeah,
they can't speak for themselves and fight for themselves, so they need us to do it. Us.
Yeah, and that's what I'm agreeing with you on. Like, that's what I just think would be so valuable if we could just have a more solid distinction. Like, no, veganism means like rejecting the idea that animals are like resources and that that we should exploit them. Like, animals should be free from exploitation. Like that, like just that being the definitive, like, this is what vegan means. Versus what a plant-based diet is. It's the most important distinction that needs to be like just more widespread. Like, I do agree with you on that.
If we were just all on the same page, just saying that message, and everybody has different forms of activism. I'm never the type to tell people what type of activism they should be doing. Like I said, I make an activist support post every Saturday to give people that uplift. You can do activism anyway. You can, if you are shy and nervous, that the internet, social media is everything. You don't even have to put your name on your account. You don't have to put your face on account. I've said this before. create a dummy account that doesn't even have your name, your face. You're not doing any check-ins. You're not showing yourself. You're not posting anything about you. Just create an account where it's not you. And then you can be comfortable and free with how you speak and what you post and what you share. And you have that. You can do stickering. You can share petitions. You can, if you want to do rap music, or if you want to point people, call them animal, because like I said, I don't think that that's the most effective, but people, whatever you want to do. If you want to go get half naked, shout out to my girl Tash. You want to go out there in the street and do what you do with a sign and half naked, do that. You want to get arrested, do that. You want to have signs and bullhorns, do that. The animals need all types of activism, because all types of activism is going to reach different types of people, and the animals need it all. They need it all.
Yeah.
But we just have to do something and keep that message solid. It is about non-human animal exploitation and being against that. Yeah. Keep that solid, and however you want to perpetuate that to the world, do that. Yeah. But the fact that we have all these different messages, these different language, these different avenues, this here, that here, no one knows what veganism means. It's like I said, it's a whole worldwide just confusion of, I tell people what veganism means and they tell me, no, that's not right. Yeah. How are you telling me what vegan? You're not even vegan and you're going to tell me what it means? It's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy.
It's like, we're not even saying that it's not good to, like, that it's not valuable if you're a nutrition expert. To be a nutrition expert in the field of like plant-based, like, this is amazing, because we like, that's amazing. We want people to know this, and it's not a bad thing to be an expert in environmental issues or anything, but just to like have the distinction at the same time would be really good. And I wanted to say to everyone that's here, don't drop the question in the little bar that says comment, because we'll miss it, because that chat just keeps going. drop it in the comment icon that has the question mark in it. That's the way that we're going to see it, because we're not going to be going back through the chat.
I'm seeing them come through. I'm like, whoa, that's a lot.
Like, put them in the comment with the question mark. I'm going to jump to the two that are in there right now.
Okay.
And if there's none left, we can just shoot off. But
yeah. I just want to say before we do, like, I know there are some activists who they do, they're chefs, they are fitness gurus, they do all that, and they're flexing, they're showing their muscles, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you know what they also do? Like I said earlier, they follow that with that education. They follow that with that awareness. They follow that with doing something and showing the animals it's not just them. Because once you're just doing that just for you, you're leaving them out. And they, like I said, they're left out too much. Yeah. Left out too much.
Yeah. We want people to know, like, dude, vegans can be jacked as they want to be. Like, we want people to know vegans can be as healthy as they want to be. Like, we want everyone to know this. I guess it'd just be nice if we knew why. Why do we exclude the exploitation of non-human animals to be that way, and why is it important? And some people do that. Some people are doing that, like, in an amazing way. Cool. So
exactly, I agree. They just need more.
Right. Cool. Yeah. Right. I have a big question today. Awesome.
Okay. All right.
Thanks for coming online frequently. You're so welcome. We're really loving these lives. I'm from India. We have a cow and we treat her as a family member. Okay, Entyce, this is a spicy one. Give her food, water, and she has enough space. We don't sell her milk. We keep her milk only for the family. Is that okay if someone is having an animal and keep them good? Okay, so will I go first, Entyce?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Okay, so this is how I genuinely feel about this. You can treat a animal as well as you please, right? But if you see them as a resource, that is like, there's something wrong with that. There's something wrong with that mindset that you see them as a resource. Like, their milk is not for us. Their milk is for their babies. And the problem is that you have to, in my worldview, you have to extend this out large scale. So you have to say, like, well, I shouldn't be the only person that's allowed this, right? So then all of a sudden, all 8 billion people want the same thing as you, and all that does leads us to where we are right now. The most efficient way to exploit animals is what we're doing right now.
Right.
And I just don't think that there's any humane or nice way to view someone as a resource. I'm not sure if there's any need to say anything else from me. I'd love to know your response, Entyce.
Yeah, I was gonna say that it's that view of looking at someone for what they can do for you. Because in the flip side, if someone viewed you like that, they treated you well, they were your friend, like you weren't abused or physically abused in any way, but they literally kept you around for what you can give them. You know, that wouldn't be good for yourself. And on the flip side, I mean, cows, they need to be rescued. So starting off, before the cow even gets to this person's land, I don't know who this person is, but did they force breed them? Did they go out and buy them? You know, are they mating naturally on their land, or are they forcing them to are they force breeding animals? Because this is where I was thrown off. I didn't know that cows had to be pregnant or had to have had a baby to produce milk. I mean, of course, they're mammals. That's how the female body works. So when she's not giving milk, you're technically taking it. And are you force breeding them? Are they mating? Now, if you rescued a family, you have a bull, you have mom, dad, and babies, and you're rescuing them, and they're mating themselves, and the baby's drinking the milk, and when everybody gets old, because cows can live to be 20, 25 years old. So, and at the end of the day, are you feeding them this long? Are you medicating them this long? Are you hydrating them this long? Are you sheltering them this long? That takes a lot of money. So, but if you were doing that, you have the money and you're rescuing, you know, like I said, they're mating there on their own. They have their milk on their own. No one's touching them. No one's doing anything to them. No one's taking their milk and drinking it themselves. And at 25 years, they pass away and you bury them. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. But then when you start looking at them for what they could do for you, and I saw, shout out to my sis Paula, she said, where are the babies going? So when the babies are born, where do they go?
Yeah. And it's like, you could look at it from the perspective as well, like from what I said, like when everybody else wants the same thing that you have, that's meant to be the solution to the problem that we are saying exists, then we have to force breed. Well, how many people is there? So that's how many cows we need now.
Yeah.
Or you could just like have plant-based
exactly.
milk, and then that's just it. Like,
yes,
we just
it's
don't
not necessary. We're not cows. Mothers produce milk for their babies. We are not. We are weaned long time ago. No one's drinking the breast milk from their mother. Hope not. As adults, that's over. So we don't need to drink milk from other animals. We don't need that. We don't. There is no biological reason for us to drink milk from other animals. None. Zero. We're just programmed to think that.
Yeah. And that's the like honest and respectful answer that we've given you, and appreciate the nice things that you said, but it's just being honest with you. How do you handle a confrontation with a non-vegan linking veganism to political propaganda? The term where you've said political propaganda is maybe a little vague for me to fully understand. However, I could still respond and just say something. One of the best things I learned off Cliff Grant, who is such a legend, is to not let it be dragged into the weeds, right? Said this at Vegan Camp Out. He practices what he preaches on the street. Like people will bombard him with chat about abortion. It doesn't matter what it is, and he literally just stands there and says, "I don't want to talk about that, mate. I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about it." And just keep saying, "I don't want to talk about that," and they get super annoyed and whatever a lot of the time. But at the end of the day, all you have to say is, I'm not talking about that.
Right.
And it's not relative to this. Right. It has nothing to do with this. I stand up for non-human animals for these reasons, and it's got nothing to do with that. Just reject the conversation. Was what I would say. Yes. Is what I would say to that. What would you say, Entyce?
Yeah, at the start, when I first started doing activism, I did engage and go back and forth, because it's like you want so bad for them to listen and change, and you just spend time just going back and forth, going down this rabbit hole with them, and it's just not worth it. So when that's brought into my conversations, whether it's online or on the street, I don't entertain that, because I'm not here to speak about abortion. I'm not here to speak about any political agenda or any type of political views that they want to bring out. I'm not here for that at all. At all. And how do you even, and when you're holding someone accountable, I'm talking about the animal testing in your eyes from your makeup, how are you bringing in political views with that? And I see that less now, because now when I'm speaking, I have, shout out to my bro David Arenas. He has helped me so much with my verbiage, and when it comes to how I speak about veganism and tying in animal exploitation into my words and all of it. When I'm speaking to people, we're not just talking about diets. Like, we're talking about the clothing you're wearing. We're talking about the animal tested products that I used to use, the clothing I used to wear. When you start bringing people and making them aware about their choices, their everyday choices, every single day they wake up, they are exploiting animals in disgusting, nasty, egregious ways. And you tie those connections with them, they're less apt to talk about politicals and abortions and all that. They're less apt to do that. But when you keep talking about the food system and crop deaths and all that stuff, and they'll try to keep deflecting and try to bring out all that other stuff. But holding people accountable to that exploitation, less apt to do that these days.
Yeah, awesome. And for anyone that's still here, before we head off, drop the questions in the comment icon with the question mark. There's a couple left, but if you want to get your question answered before we shoot, oh god, sorry, dropping my device. Right, okay.
And just as you're looking, just a segueing on that again, it's just like, if you see people they're not listening to the message, they keep arguing with you. Don't be afraid to just cut that conversation off. Don't be afraid to walk off and just cut it, because you're going to waste your time. There are going to be 20 people walking past that could be outreached, and you're going to miss your opportunity. And online, there could be a post you made to outreach the world, and you're wasting your time going back and forth with someone. So know when to cut it off. Know when to cut it.
Awesome. Yeah, I've not done street outreach yet, guys, but I've seen a lot of people say that. If it feels like they don't care, like, at all, then maybe it's a waste of your time. And there's people that do care you could be talking to. Yeah, that's an amazing thing to say.
Right.
Cool. Satan Inside, shout out Josh, how's it going, my man? Do we think the reason people won't go vegan is more due to social pressure and or being scared for their health? I'm not talking necessarily about anti-vegans, however. Could just be using this who could be using this as a stance against veganism. But yeah, so the point is, like, are people just genuinely scared about, one, social pressure, and two, their health? I would 100% agree with you, Josh. I think some people just actually believe the propaganda, like, just actually believe that if they go vegan, they're just going to fall to bits.
Yeah.
And that we're all just like, we must be just like sacrificing ourselves because of how much we love animals more than the average person. And I do think there's an element of that, dude. And the social pressure 100,000,000% exists. 100%.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had the answer for, like, how to combat that. I just think the only thing you could really say is, like, so for the health one, like, all of the most reliable, like, sources tell us that veganism is suitable for literally infants, pregnant women, and everything. So, like, you can be as healthy as you want to be as a vegan. For the other thing, I would maybe say to someone, if they were new, it's like new to the thing and worried about the social pressure, is that, like, you don't have to become someone that you don't like to be vegan. So a lot of people say to me, like, someone said to me before I deleted my personal Facebook, and I've talked about dropping things off and channeling my energy into VeganFTA because it's where I feel the most positive about what I'm doing. One of the last conversations I had on Facebook before I deleted it was that someone said, like, I would go vegan, but, like, people like you, blah blah blah, like, attacking me, and they didn't like me or whatever. And I would just and I said to that guy, like, you don't have to adopt my personality to be vegan. So you can be like this. If you're a people pleaser, you can be a vegan people pleaser. Like,
Yeah.
so there's answers to all of that. Do you have anything to say on that, Entyce?
Yeah, I feel like if people would, instead of thinking about this being a diet, because he was saying about not being healthy, being vegan, that's more aligned with not eating animals. So when you, again, once you're vegan, you don't view animals as resources. You take an ethical stance against them. Not going to the Canada Goose store has nothing to do with your health. Not going
Yep.
to SeaWorld anymore has nothing to do with your health. So once you start
Yeah.
thinking about it as an ethical stance and not as anything that you're eating, and you're firm on that stance, you will find what you need to sustain yourself. You will find the different clothing to buy. You will find the different products to buy. But it comes with your mind and your heart really, really connecting and being firm on that. Just like there's nothing that anyone can say to me to waver my stance on being against child abuse. Like, I don't care what social setting that I'm in. I'm never going to be for that. I don't care what social setting that I'm in. I'm never going to be racist. So if you look at it as an ethical stance, it becomes more urgent, it becomes more serious, and that whole social pressures and all that, it kind of goes out the window. And listen, when you become vegan, and more so when you become active, start joining, and it's another thing I say, start joining other activist groups, and I say vegan groups, but the vegan groups out right now, they're talking about potlucks and cooking and all that, which, okay, it's fine, you can join those, but really getting into and connected with people who are vegan for the right reasons, and vegan because they are against animal exploitation, and being around those like minds, your social settings, they're going to expand, they're going to grow, and being around those like minds is going to give you that uplift, it's going to give you that encouragement, it's going to inspire you to be that voice and continue to be that voice. And honestly, some of your old friends, you may not have them around, at least for not right now. They may come along for the ride later on down the road, but create a whole new social environment for yourself. And that way you're around like minds now, and you don't have to really worry about those social pressures you used to deal with back in the day.
Yeah. I think what's so tough about it though, from like what Josh is saying, is that like we totally understand like why you would be vegan ethically. And the point would be that like if that person doesn't believe that they can be healthy as a vegan from that from the diet perspective, is that they would just put that like
Higher up.
higher on their
Mm.
like idea of like what's right. Like they wouldn't sacrifice themselves for the greater good is like what they're technically saying. So I think there's like this important element of like obviously like we need to explain to them the
Yeah.
ethical thing, but I think it's just important to actually just tell them, because we have the truth on our side, and the truth is that you can be
Yeah.
healthy as a vegan, that they should know that.
Yeah.
And it's
And
tough with people that like don't care, and if they don't, then maybe they're a waste of time, you know.
And that's what I'm saying. Do your research, and again, start doing things that put yourself into the eyes of the animal. Start going to those sanctuaries. The most powerful thing that I ever did in my whole entire life, and this takes a lot of strength and courage, it does, and it takes a lot of support behind you, is attending a vigil. If you attend a vigil and you look at those babies into their eyes, they are begging you to save them, and they know what's happening. They know what's going on, especially when it's time to go inside, and they are literally begging you to save them. They are crying through their eyes for you to get in there and save them, and you can't. There's nothing you can do for them. Absolutely nothing you can do. And going back to the whole intersectionalism stuff, when you want to start fighting for humans, when you start looking at those babies in that truck that's going in, and the humans that you want to fight for, they're the reason why they're going in and never coming out, that's also going to change you. So if you can do a vigil, like I said, it's real intense, but start putting yourself into the eyes of the animals, man. You'll start thinking about yourself less. I'm telling you, it is something very powerful with those eyes. Very powerful.
Yeah. Um, for sure,
Yeah.
man. Ingrid asks, like, what's your favourite vegan food at the moment? As far as
Vegan.
the recipe part, I don't have recipes to share, but got a newfound love for tempeh, man. I'm eating so much tempeh.
Oh, I've been on a tempeh like for the last like 3 weeks. I've been eating tempeh every day. Every day.
It's so good, man. The
Yeah.
last one I just skipped the last troll. He said, "Aren't animals tasty?" Like, do you actually want to respond to that, Entyce?
I mean, when you're saying animals are tasty, for one, you're saying animal exploitation is tasty. You're saying kidnapping is tasty. You're saying torture is tasty. You're saying abuse is tasty. You're saying violence is tasty. You're saying oppression is tasty. And you're putting that in your mouth. Rather, you're putting them in your mouth and in your stomach. And then there's nothing tasty about that. It's actually pretty nasty and pretty disgusting and pretty gross for you to look at someone like that. And if they looked at you like that, I'm pretty sure you would want that whole rhetoric you just said to change if you were in their position, about to get your head cut off. Think about that.
Yeah, and you're talking about like a experience of like pleasure, right? That lasts for seconds, minutes. How in a million years is that more valuable to you than the animal's life is to them? Because we don't care about how valuable the animal's life is to you. We care about how valuable the animal's life is to them, and
Right.
it's way more valuable than you like tasty,
Right.
like, because you can do tasty with vegan food.
Right.
All right, that was just a follow up on that political thing. So they accused you of having a political agenda. Yeah, I would just separate it and say like it's not a political agenda, mate.
Not at all.
I'll literally just do not like animal exploitation, or not that you don't like it. It's wrong. Lovely comment. Beware, Entyce speaks the truth only. Love that.
Yeah, my message is not the most popular. It's not the most liked. It's not the most. It's not the message that people gravitate, because I don't speak to give people a cushion. I don't speak to make people comfortable. Sometimes that uncomfortable feeling is what people need. That's what it did for me. When I was first seeing everything, I was very uncomfortable. I was disgusted. I was embarrassed. I was just like, how did I do this as a human being? Someone who says that they are against the animal abuse and animal cruelty, animal exploitation, and I'm supporting it. So I was very uncomfortable with what I learned. And it's just, I mean, I just speak it how it is. I speak how the animals would want me to speak. If I was in their position, what would I want someone to talk about? If I was walking down a kill floor and my mother was about to get her head cut off and I'm next, what would I want to, if someone gave me 1 minute to beg for my life and plead for them to stop, what would be my words? Am I going to talk about tofu? Am I going to talk about the environment? Am I going to talk about human rights? Or am I going to talk about I'm an individual who deserves rights. I'm an individual who deserves to be with their mother, like how you get to be with your mother. I'm an individual who does not deserve to have their head cut off. And please give me my rights based off of who I am, what I feel. I feel pain. I feel joy, just like you feel pain, just like you feel joy. Just like when you go home to your mother at night, you get to hold her. You get to hold your children at night. You get to cuddle with them and nuzzle with them. I want to do the same. So I speak like that. Sometimes it comes out a little bit, a little bit harsher, but I speak for them as if I was in their position. And that's all I do. That's all I do. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be cooking recipes and flexing. First of all, I don't really have much to flex. So I just speak for them like how they need me to. That's all.
You speak really, really, really well for them, though, and we know that. Do you have time to answer a couple more questions, Entyce? I know it's been getting on a bit.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Cool. So this one is super interesting. I do have something to say on it, right? So I have 2 cats. I have tried to give them vegan food, but one of them does not tolerate it. I'm very conflicted being a vegan myself. Can you please advise? So, like, we'll believe your point, right? So that, like, so at least one of the cats is just not eating the food that you're giving them, right? And so this is what I think, and I'm really sorry, I can't give like the right answer if there is one. This is what I think. I understand that people do things when they weren't vegan. Maybe you went vegan like after you rescued the cat, stuff like that, right? And then things change, right? And then you have these feelings, and yeah, it's going to be awful. It's going to be conflicting, the fact that you're having to buy these animal products and feed them to the cat. What I would say is that if this is true and there's just no way and they're not doing it and whatever, like, you have a duty of care to the cat, so you have to do right by the cat. What I would do is like change your behaviors going forward in life so that the problem doesn't continue. And I understand how difficult this is, because there's a lot of cats that need rescued just like other animals. You have to kind of like weigh that up, like how you feel about it, and just make that decision based on how you feel going forward.
Yeah.
If you find that your experience is it's just too hard to get cats on a plant-based diet, despite, and let's just be clear to the audience, like there's plant-based like pet food brands that are vet approved, that have been around for plus decade, but 15, 16 years in that.
Yeah.
So these foods exist, but yeah, if your cat's not eating it, I would just say think about your decisions going forward. Like maybe you don't make the same decisions in life going forward because of the result of them. And I just don't know what else to say. What about you, Entyce?
Yeah, I don't have any children. I don't have any animal companions, so I can't speak on something that I don't know nothing about. So I just know from what I see from other vegans and activists, what they do. And I usually, if someone does ask me, I just usually just give them their information. And I say, you can DM this person, because I don't know anything about it. I don't. So I'm not going to speak on it because I'm not educated on it enough to speak on it.
Totally fair. How can we educate ourselves and others why animal tourism is not humane, like riding elephants and all these excursions with tigers and monkeys and all that?
Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll find, like, I think I actually just posted something about that. I'm always posting about all types of animal exploitation, so I'm pretty sure I just posted about that recently. You can just like save a video, repost a video, and just speak for the animal as if, like I said, as if you were in there. What would you say if someone was constantly riding you, constantly exploiting you, constantly sitting on you? You're not in your natural habitat. You're not in where you belong. You're not with your family and your friends. And you are constantly exploited, constantly. And they're just using you constantly. What would you say? And just write that. And that's how you can do that. Or if you see that in your area, if I ever saw, like, if there was a zoo close by in my area or something like that happening, I would be out there with some sort of sign, some sort of footage, some sort of bullhorn. I would rally some people and start doing demos right outside their place. Learn about your rights, learn about where you can go, what permits you need, talk to officials, like law officials, and see what you can actually do. Because if that's somewhere in your area and you can do some demos about it and speak to the public about it, have some leaflets in hand, but learn about your area and what's lawful and what's not, and where you can be, where you can't. So nobody can say anything to you, but get out there, get your boots on and head out there. That's what I would do, along with posting online.
Yeah. I would say, I'm just thinking of from a philosophical argument against it standpoint, but I guess I would say to the person that isn't viewing it as wrong, I would say to them, one, just because you don't see or recognize the grief that the animal's going through or the hard time that the animal's having, you recognize that if an animal does a funny behavior that a human's taught them, that you just think that the animal thinks it's great. They don't. These animals are not free. They're not free, and they're definitely not happy. 100% not happy. Just because you don't recognize that doesn't mean that it's not the case. And yeah, I guess I would just second, this animal isn't free. And they should be free. This is not the life they should be living. There's just no justification for it. We've nearly been an hour, so just do one or two more questions and then we'll get off. Okay. What tips to adopt a vegan lifestyle? So, assuming that you potentially mean practical tips or something, I can let you take it, Entyce, if you got some ideas.
So before, if someone is not vegan, before even going forward, I would say I always say, at least start to know why you're doing this. Why do you want to become vegan? If your answer is to lose weight, or if it's to get healthy, or if it's to anything about you, you're approaching it in the wrong way. So I would first start to watch some documentaries to help you understand why you're going vegan. That's very important as to why you're going vegan, even though there's only one reason to go vegan. But unfortunately, we're in a world where now there's multiple reasons, but there's only one reason to go vegan, is that you want to take an ethical stance against all non-human animal exploitation. And if that is not clear to you, I would start watching the documentaries. I always recommend them. The documentary Dominion, the documentary Slay, the documentary Ending Real Fur, the documentary Seaspiracy, the documentary, actually it's a docu-series, The Failed Experiment, which highlights vivisection. You can watch Darius Scary on YouTube. That's what made me and my partner go vegan. Joey Carbstrong did an amazing documentary. It's called Milk, Make Your Own Mind Up. And the documentary The Cove, the documentary Blackfish. Is this going to be recorded? Hopefully, I don't know if people will be able to write that down, but
yeah, it's going to be recorded. Yeah.
Watch all of and from start to finish. Watch those, because that's the best tips that I can give someone. Watch those documentaries, and then after you watch those, you will understand the urgency, the seriousness, and how this is about the animals. And every single choice you make after that, it will be aligned with that ethical stance. It will be aligned with the animals. You're not even going to question.
Yeah.
When you go to the grocery store, there's not even going to be a debate. It's not going to be a hesitation. It's not going to be a question which aisle you're going to go to. When you want that new wardrobe, there's not even going to be a question what items you're buying. When you want to have fun with your friends and you've been going to SeaWorld every year, there's not even a question how that's going to change. Not even a debate, but it's imperative you get that information into your heart and the education as to why you're going vegan. And then everything falls in place after that.
Yeah, I totally second that. I mean, it was an utterly perfect response, but I totally second that. It's like all you need is the why, like not all of the what's, like, because there's tons of what's.
Right.
All you need is the why, because like I don't see any situation that's like urgent enough that you would either get the solution, whatever the solution is that you need, you'd either get it or you just wouldn't get it at that time. Like,
right.
So if at that time you couldn't get the vegan solution, there would be no solution, and you would just go through that, however small that problem is.
Right.
And it's the why that you need, and this is from experience from like old friends saying like it's just not easy to be vegan though, and they try and tell a vegan that it's hard to be vegan, and you're like, geez.
No, it's only hard when it's easy when you're thinking about the animals. It's hard when you start thinking about yourself, just straight like that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I actually feel like that's the last one that I feel like was worth answering.
Yeah, bunch of trolls in there.
Thank you so much. Awesome. Thank you so much for jumping on the live, Entyce. It was amazing to speak to you.
Yes.
Loved hearing all the stuff that I didn't know about you. If you've got anything to say to the audience before you shoot off, take the floor. Just make sure to follow Entyce on socials, which I'm going to repost this live. Tag the socials that you need to follow for Entyce's work. Do you got anything you want to say?
Yes. So understand that what's happening to non-human animals, it's not happening, like I said earlier, it's not happening just because if you are not vegan, animals are being exploited, they are being oppressed, they are being killed because of your daily choices. That is a very harsh truth. Those are very harsh words. I get that, but they were harsh for me, but I understood the urgency and the seriousness of it. And collectively, if we keep doing this to them, cages are going to still be filled. Tanks are going to be still filled. Testing labs are still going to be filled. Gas chambers, slaughterhouses, oppression plots, they're never going anywhere. And these babies, they cannot fight and they cannot tell you to stop. They can't. So the only way that that's going to stop from happening is stopping your own personal contributions to that. Stop paying for it. Simple. Boycott these industries. I don't even know if industries is the right word. These disgusting, atrocious atrocities. Boycott them. Stop paying for them. Stop paying for it. Because like I said earlier, if it were you in there, what would you want people to be doing today? What choices would you want them to be making today? You're about to have your head cut off. Remember that. Where do you want people? What directions do you want people to go? Let that be where you go.
Awesome. You're a legend, Entyce. We'll speak really soon, right?
You know it. All day, baby.
Have a good day, right?
All right. Thanks for having me. All right.
Peace, guys. Thanks for watching.
Bye.